Good morning, and how are you? In today's meditation, I want to discuss how the forces of Islam is manipulating the West through conquering and dividing strategy. We are aware that political correctness has been the sword of destruction and division that has been employed by Muslims, extremists, to even moderate Muslims. The Islamic extremist, if you like, the potential terrorist, who practice the Quran text for text, word for word. They do not believe in freedom of speech. They do not believe in the Western liberty that we have the indulgences of enjoying and practicing. However, what these Muslims do, they employ the democracy principles, the liberty, the free speech in favor of promoting Islam. So therefore, the American, European, British laws of freedom and democracy is then used for the benefit of the expansion of Muslim Islamic rulership or rules. But what provides oil or give oil to the growth and expansion of Islam are two major players in the game: the LGBT and, of course, white feminism. These two forces have implemented and shown an interest in supporting Islam and indeed by portraying white males in the same breath as Christianity as being a force of oppression and an extension of white patriarch. So therefore, the LGBT and white feminists have jumped into bed with Islamic religion and thus given it, if you like, power in which to exploit and divide the European people, because now you have feminists who are attacking white males and you have LGBT attacking white male heterosexuals, and this creates a beautiful occasion for Muslims in which to exploit this political position. And indeed, this will create conflict within Europe, because you have the white liberals who are siding with anything that Islam does, if I may expand upon that. I'm not sure if they brought in a new law yet, but to criticize Islam now is going to be illegal. The sun's coming out. Every time I begin this conversation, the sun always comes out. I'm so blessed. God is loving me. He always brings the sun out every time I talk. It's not as if I'm timed with a calculator. It just came out. But what this shows is that the Europeans, and I think the Americans too, are implementing a new law where to criticize Muslim terrorists, you can go to prison. You can lose your mortgage. And you wonder why? Why would European leaders, why would the American government want to bring in a law to protect terrorists, people who want to harm us, people who want to force us by the threat of the sword to convert to Islam and indeed practice Sharia law? Already there are 85 courts in England that is set up purely to practice Sharia law for Muslims. 85 courts around England where Sharia law is practiced. Now, this demonstrates, and this quite clearly shows, there is a serious problem in America and Britain. I've never in history, never known, maybe you can inform me or enlighten me, but I've never in history read or seen where the enemy is protected by the law. That to me means treason. Where you have the monarchy, who is supposed to be the head of the church, whatever that means, because we know we don't live in a Christian country, but when you have the monarchy who is silent as Islam begins to spread around Europe and in Britain, yet the Queen, who is supposed to be allegedly the head of the faith, the church, yet have nothing to say about it, you begin to realize that we are caught up in a matrix of deception and deceit. How do we not know that the Queen and the government and Islam do not work together? The dangers of political correctness has created this European divide, because you cannot in any way constructively criticize historically and present the terrorist behavior of Islam or Muslims. You are told you're being a hater. And as I mentioned earlier on, they're implementing laws where you cannot criticize Islam. Now, please note, my intelligent subscribers and intelligent viewers, please note that in the Quran, it states to criticize Islam is death threat, apostasy. We got a milder form where the American and the European and the British are bringing, I think Canada already has, where to criticize Islam is now illegal. You can criticize Sikhism, you can criticize Christianity, you can criticize Hinduism, you can criticize any religion, but you can't criticize Islam. Think about that for a second. Why is it you cannot criticize Islam, and the Quran states to criticize Islam is death penalty? Whether critically, whether constructively, whether academically, whether intelligently, whether with wisdom, you cannot criticize Islam. You cannot criticize the behavior, the criminal behavior of terrorists. Why? Obviously, we know that Theresa May withheld information where she refused to tell us peasants whether Saudi Arabia was supporting terrorists. She refused. It's not for you to know. It's not for you to know whether Theresa May, the Conservative government, it's not for you to know, for her to divulge to you whether Saudi Arabia was sponsoring and supporting terrorists. In other words, there is a game being played here, a serious game, when the government pretends that their war is against terrorism, yet on the other hand they refuse to give you information where the countries that they do deals with and sell arms to are sponsoring terrorism. Please tell me, is that logical? Is that logical? Your house is being burgled, and yet I claim I want to fight this burglar. I want to fight and implement laws against this burglar. And you said to me, journey into justice and truth. Could you tell me whether this burglar has got my asset, my contents? And I reply, well, It's not for you to know. I can't tell you. I'll tell you in 100 years, after this, the laws of secrecy then becomes expelled. In 100 years time, I will tell you. In other words, you're not around to benefit from it. You would think, wait there, am I your friend or not? Why won't I divulge whether this burglar has got your contents from your house? I won't tell you. Obviously, I'm doing deals with this burglar that you don't know about. Yet I claim I'm your friend. I claim I want to fight against burglars. I want to fight against robbers. And yet I'm doing deals. You can't trust a man like that. You can't trust a leader like that. Yet we do. We trust these fake leaders. The British government and the American government have been selling arms and doing deals with these dangerous Muslim countries for oil, and that will be the downfall of Europe. We already can see the disasters that's happening in Europe because of LGBT and white feminists who are actually siding up with Muslims to fight against the wicked white man. And now the leaders are siding with Muslims for oil. So everybody is like a big fat pig, and you get little piglets feeding off the big fat pig. And the big fat pig is Islam. And the little piglets are LGBT and liberals and the government, all feeding off it for their own purposes. Europe is being divided and controlled and conquered by intelligent Muslims, whether extremist or whether moderate. They all have the same agenda, whether through softness at the moment or ruthlessness. But in the end, Britain and America, like what's happening in Canada, it will crumble. As I said, I give you 2 to 5 years and you won't recognize America or Britain. There's a game being played, a very serious game.